Hello, Bethany family. This is Pastor Vogel. I haven't done this in a while. We used to do devotions um, on a regular basis during COVID. This was now quite a while ago, and I was trying to think of different ways that we could maybe connect during the week using technology. And one of those ways I think which can be helpful is through household encouragements. Every week on Sundays, we give a sermon, pastors give a sermon, then we give you a household encouragement. But sometimes we don't spend a lot of time taking a deeper dive into some of those household encouragements. This week, I wanted to talk to you about technology. I'm actually, it's Monday morning. I was actually about ready to go for a run. One of the things that I've been trying to do better in my own personal life is do a better job of taking care of myself by exercising regularly. I used to do that all the time, and I kind of let that go. I don't know why. So what I'm also looking at is better ways to manage technology, because technology has a tendency sometimes to take over our lives, and my life is no different. So one thing that I wanted to share with you, and then I'm going to run you through a few possible practical tips about handling technology in your house. Number one, I think one of the challenges with technology is it's constantly changing. It says in the Bible that Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And Jesus himself said that the heaven and the earth may pass away, but my words will remain. So one of the comforts we find in Scripture is that God remains the same throughout our entire our different seasons of life. I've found great comfort knowing that God's word doesn't change, even if circumstances in life may change, even if I live in a different location than I did before. Things are always changing, but God's word remains the same. So I always find comfort in that. But I think that's why technology is so hard to handle sometimes, because it's like trying to hit a moving target, especially for parents. And if you're somebody that didn't grow up with technology, it can be very hard to work through. My wife and I, we've been talking about things at home that we could do in our own household. I want you to know, first of all, that I am not an expert in any of this kind of stuff. I struggle with it like anybody else, but I've found there's a few things that we do that I thought I might share with you that I think follows biblical common sense, biblical wisdom, I think, and see if any of this might help you. In all honesty, this flows from, I preach on Psalm 23 on Sunday. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He provides for me all the needs that I have in life. And sometimes I turn my wants into needs, and I get those things confused. And in verse 4 of Psalm 23, it talks about, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. And that part of Psalm 23 has always been a healthy reminder that, even David, as he recognized that life is difficult, he wrote Psalm 23. God himself, through his word, acknowledges to us that life can be hard sometimes. Jesus himself said, in this world there will be trouble. But then he went on and said, but take heart, I have overcome the world. So I think it's important to understand that, in that verse 4 of Psalm 23, God goes with us through the challenges that we have, and not just death, but some of the daily struggles that we have, the things that bother us, and he equips us to face those things. So like I said, technology is always changing. We don't want it to be the thing that is shepherding us or discipling us. We can use it, but we need to be wise in how we use it. And remember, for example, that technology in and of itself isn't evil. It's a heart that has sin in it. Jesus said, evil comes from the heart. It's not what we put into our bodies, what comes out of us. He said that defiles us. He was talking to the Pharisees about, the disciples were eating unclean things. So it's about what comes out of us, and so sin originates in us, and so a sinful heart takes hold of a rather benign object, and then uses that object sometimes for evil things. So technology is no different. It can be used for great evil, but it can also be used for great good if you know how to do that, and if you do so intentionally. And I would argue if you use it with limits. I'm going to be providing a link to a document that I put together that kind of outlines all the things that I'm going to be talking about here. It'll be on our website, and also I'll find a way to put a link on our YouTube page as well, because I'm gonna start doing videos like this more often. But here's my basic some tips that I've found that might help you when you're trying to work with technology. Number one, if you have smartphones, some of you I know still don't. But if you have a smartphone, decide where your phone lives. This is for parents and for youth, for all ages in your household. In my house, this is what we're gonna try. We're actually creating an entryway location for our devices. So when you come in, all devices go in that location, and they don't travel with us everywhere in the house. They're not going to be allowed in our bedrooms. Nobody can take the phone in the bedroom, because that's another way that we isolate ourselves from one another sometimes. And also, it's not healthy to have your phone in your bedroom. I don't know if you use your phone before you go to bed or you charge it next to your bed. It's convenient, but increasingly you will hear people saying it's not a healthy practice. So decide where your phone lives, and you get to decide. It's your choice. Okay, the Bible doesn't tell us what we should do, like how we should do this, but I think it's wise to set limits on where your phone lives. You could even simply start by saying no phones at the table or in the bedrooms. You could start that way. That's a simple way to start. Like I said, we're saying phone lives in the entryway, and it's not traveling with us around the house. And I would say, if you're a parent with young kids, with teenagers, you need to be prepared to live these rules yourself. A lot of times it's like, because I said so kind of way of parenting is fun. I've used that quite a bit myself, but being willing to do this yourself will go a long way in showing your kids that, no, I'm not just telling you need to do this. I think this is good for me as well. So that's number one. Decide where your phone lives. It's your choice, but I would say set some limits. Number two, have household screenless time. Keep the TV off during the week. One of the things that we're doing is we're saying no TV during the week. We have special times, like we're saying Fridays and weekends. That's what we do at our house. But during the week, don't turn the TV on if you're parents. If you have limits in terms of what you can do, I understand that TV sometimes is the only way to stay occupied, especially if like you're a shut-in. So I totally get this. So take some of this with a grain of salt if you're a shut-in. But for our household, keeping the screen off during all screens, including just televisions, off during the week, has been a helpful way of helping us lift up our eyes and see one another. Another thing you can consider maybe is aiming for a screenless summer. A lot of outdoor activities. Instead of being around the TV, especially when it's nice out, turn the TVs off. Get rid of the phones. Screenless summer. Okay. And when I say get rid of the phones, I'm saying, once again, decide where your phone lives. Obviously, you're going to need to be able to call people. And then one thing that we do, and you don't have to do this, we set specific days and times to watch a movie. So we make it a family night. We do that on Friday. So there you go. So number one, decide where your phone lives. Number two, have household screenless times. So set limits also on how often the TV or any screen is on. Number three, use accountability strategies and software / devices that can help you with accountability. So we all need accountability because we all have sin in our hearts. So parents, for example, if you buy a phone for your child, let them know that you're going to check it. That's one of the things. Even if you give it to them as a gift, they're learning to do this. We teach kids how to drive by having them practice. Why is it that we just give them these devices that can do all these things, and we just expect that they'll use them in positive ways? I think it's important for us, just as it is a biblical model, encourage them to sit at your feet so you can, as a parent, teach them the way that they should go, right? So whenever you decide that you're going to get them a phone, say this is a gift, but I can look at it at any time, and I'm going to be talking to you about it and setting limits, right? So tell them right off the bat that there's going to be accountability for the device. Two devices, and on the document that I'm sharing has links, or two. There's a device called Circle that we use in our house. It's also something that so it's you can just buy the device and it operates within your house. It limits like apps that can be downloaded on phones. Every device that's connected to Wi-Fi in your house can be controlled by Circle. So in other words, you can shut off the internet if you want to. You can limit apps downloaded on phones. You can look at each individual device, and you could pause an individual device if you want to. Say, there's a consequence for a child in the house and they've misused their screen time, you can just pause their laptop or their phone. Um, Circle can also for a price. Circle will also follow. You can actually download software on phones for teenagers, for example, so that when they leave the house, the settings follow them. So you could pause them or limit what they can do with their phone even when they're outside the house. So if you're willing to pay a monthly fee, you can do that as well, which works pretty good. So Circle is worth checking out. Covenant Eyes is a software. It actually is meant to battle pornography. That's the main purpose of Covenant Eyes. So I've oftentimes seen this as adult accountability software, but it could also be for youth. Um, Pornography addiction, they say, happens at a very young age. A lot of people are using it. If you go to covenanteyes.com, once again, this is accountability software. But then, if you're struggling to use technology in a positive way, basically you find an accountability partner who can see everything that you do on the internet, and it basically flags things that are inappropriate for other people to see. So, if you're an adult who struggles with some of these things, or if you're simply a parent, you could use this too. But both of these seem to be two of the big ones that I've come across. But there's many more options online, and I would actually encourage you, if you want to do some research, to do that. So number one, decide where your phone lives. Number two, have household screenless times. You've set those limits. Number three, use accountability strategies and or software devices. And remember, it's all what fits your home. We use Circle in our homes. That's what we do. But whatever fits your household the best. And then number four, set limits on social media. I mentioned this in the sermon on Sunday, that social media has become it's become a challenge in the world today. And there are studies out there now that are saying that it is harmful. It's caused mental health. A lot of the mental health issues we have, increasingly it seems connected to being on phones too much, and social media is not been a positive influence, especially for the next Generation Z in particular. Look that one up. So one of the things that I've come across regularly, and I think this makes sense, is it's important to keep children off social media until they're older. That's my personal opinion. You can disagree with that, but studies say that it's not a good thing. So I'm just kind of citing what I see online. How old is up to you. But I struggle to find the benefits of kids being on social media too early. A lot of them are on super early in grade school. Maybe your child is, if you have a child. And I'm just telling you that it's a dangerous thing to do too young. It's just like giving them a phone and being like, okay, have fun with it. There's so much they can do with it, and social media is something that they have to understand, that the things they put out there, it's going to be seen for years later. But then also how they consume technology. It's just video after video after video. It's not healthy for them. It's not a healthy practice to get into. It can be fun and cute for a while, but how are we training them when they're connected to these things all the time? So just something to think about. If you are a parent, you're the parent. You decide. I'm just telling you what studies show. So most phones also allow you to see how much time you spend on them. So if you want to know, like, for example, how much time you spend on technology, if you have an iPhone, for example, just go to the settings settings app, search a little bit. You'll find you can actually see it'll actually show you how much time you spend on your phone. So it's interesting because even technology companies are beginning to realize that people are on their phones too much, and so they're starting to create new settings. If you have an iPhone, there's a setting called Focus, another interesting setting that allows you to limit people getting in touch with you. I actually use it a lot of times, especially on weekends, so that I can't get calls all the time if I'm with my family. So there's a lot of settings it's worth checking out on your phone to help you limit how you use your technology. But back to social media. I would encourage you, if you're a parent, to talk to an educator about technology and how they see it impacting kids. Principals and teachers have a unique perspective because they see all sorts of different kids and kids who have different involvement with technology, and they can give you perspective because they're seeing a lot of kids using technology. And so when I say setting limits on social media, I consider it the same as a car, same as a phone, right? Kids need to be trained to use these things. They shouldn't just be set free, right? So when you decide to give them a phone, set limits, and just increasingly maybe you can take some of those limits off, but teach them how to use it. Okay, social media, I would actually argue, like right away in high school even, it's not a good thing for them to be on social media, even though that seems like what so many kids do, because they don't know how to use it. They're just using it, and most parents aren't walking with them through this, and it gets so many kids into trouble. It's damaging, and a lot of times I think the reason why we do it is simply because all their other friends are doing it. I don't think that's godly wisdom. It's not. Read the book of Proverbs, and it talks about fear of the Lord being the is the beginning of wisdom, having faith and trust in the Lord. And then God is compared to a parent sitting with their child, and so it really is important for parents while your children are in your homes to walk with them through their technology use. All right, here we go. So decide where your phone lives. Have household screenless time. Number 3, use accountability strategies, software devices. Number 4, set limits on social media. And number 5, this is a kind of an aside, but I think this is a good point. If you read a lot of digital books, which I do, buy a Kindle reader. This is what I'm trying. So to not have my phone as much, or my iPad, which has all sorts of other things I can do. I can browse social media. I can do all sorts of things with it. Buy a Kindle reader. And all it does is use it for books. And also then when my kids see me with it, they know I'm reading. They don't look at me and be like, what are you browsing now? Are you doing work? Are you texting somebody? Are you, right? So I use my Kindle reader, and I keep my phone to the side a little bit. And on top of that, we all need to read more, don't we? I think we need to read more. We don't need the temptation of a cell phone or tablet taking us down rabbit holes and getting us frustrated with constant news we see on television. Instead, challenge yourself to read more books, including the Bible. That's a good one. And lastly, parents, if you're a parent, especially a parent, keep up on technology. Artificial intelligence is a new thing. It's a big thing that's out there now. Youth are picking up on it. You can use AI to write a paper, for example. Download, just so you can test this out yourself, download the app ChatGPT and just ask it to write a paper on whatever topic you want it to write it on and see what happens. It's crazy. AI is amazing. It's also scary because you say, write a paper on this. Well, who's deciding what sources are being used? Whose opinions are being trusted? That's why this is the world we're heading into. So you need to be aware of new technology. On Sunday, I also showed you the Apple Vision Pro, new technology with virtual reality that's coming out. It's crazy stuff. Like I sometimes wonder what my kids, they're gonna have when they're my age. But I think parents, especially parents, and grandparents too, it's good to be aware of these things. Like I said, technology is constantly changing, but you have to be aware of it, especially as parents, because your kids are always going to be on the cutting edge of technology, at least being aware of it, because they're online so much. So there you have it. That's my list of different ways you might be able to practically go through the technological changes of this world. I hope that this was a help for you. And my prayer for you is that that the Lord would be your shepherd, and that together we would seek ways to, not perfectly, but by God's grace, go through some of the challenges of this world. And that we'd increasingly have conversations about some of these things, because it's really, really, really important that we talk about them. And also to do so with humility. I don't have all the answers. Like I said, we're trying some things in our own home. So I'm trying to share some of those things with you to encourage you. And I think it's especially good as school begins to start. But understand, nobody's perfect. And the best way sometimes to work through things is to talk to your fellow brothers and sisters in Christ. And as a church, keep our eyes on Jesus and do our best to navigate the challenges of this world, trusting all the while that one day he's going to take us to that great banquet feast. And we will have no doubt that the Lord is good and his steadfast love endures forever. God's blessings, my friends. Have a great day, and I guess I'll see you at the next time I give you a much shorter household encouragement. God's blessings. Bye bye.